So my prescription to myself, 80 grams of organic grass-fed liver, beef liver, sort of 2 to 4 times a week. If I go out, and I go out a lot, and there are oysters on the menu, then I take 2 oysters every time I'm at a restaurant that has it. If there are other organ meats but not brain and nothing from pigs, then I will order that dish for sure.
Not pigs? What do you mean by?
Pork. Nothing from...
No, nothing from pork. Why is that? Is there personal, or is there like some science behind?
Look, I'm not encouraged at all by the data about pork products and parasite load.
Ah, that's interesting.
I just don't have it's just easier just to avoid
Okay.
it. And I also kind of feel now there's a reason why the Jews avoid it as well. So let's just...
And Muslims.
Yeah, and Muslims as well. Let's maybe, defer to their ancient wisdom.
All right.
Yeah.
What else?
So that is my first protocol. Supplements. I tend to only take food-derived supplements or supplements from small manufacturers and companies where I know the CEO, I've looked them in the eyes, I know that company and that CEO's ethics, and so those are the only ones I would consider. I pulse supplements, so you'll catch me some days or weeks where I'm not taking anything at all, and I will take things if I feel I need it. So I'm someone who, and I've known this over a few years of biohacking and knowing my body, vitamin C. I need to take vitamin C.
So what dosage would you take?
I take, if I can, 1 gram twice a day when I'm not doing well.
And what kind of a vitamin C? Because there's different kinds.
Yes. So I use the Live On Labs.
Okay, like in the liquid form.
Yes,
the
liposomal.
Yeah,
the vitamin C in individual sachets.
Which they're cute, like travel sizes. Really
yeah,
nice,
but the other thing about any antioxidant is that you have to be so careful because antioxidants are antioxidants, which means that which means that the minute they're exposed to the elements, i.e. moisture and air, the antioxidant capacity starts to decrease because they are fighting the oxidative stresses of their environment. So if you were to have, and I've seen this, if you have a tub of vitamin C granules, the minute you open that in 2 days, that's done.
Oh, wow.
Right? That's why I love the Live On Lab sachets. They make sense.
The small, like open and take it. That goes to a lot of antioxidant supplements on the market?
Yes.
What about glutathione, which is great for mitochondria? From what I understand, glutathione is the only one of the most molecules that actually goes and fixes mitochondria.
Yeah. Look, I love glutathione, but I'm more a fan of giving the building blocks for glutathione so that my body can decide to make it. So it's cysteine, so NAC.
Okay.
Yeah. Glycine. And so glycine is to be found in like the rubbery parts of animal products, let's just say the tendons, the ligaments, the chicken skin, right? And then glutamine. So those are...
But in natural foods, or we're talking about still supplementing foods. In natural? So where are these things, you were talking NAC, what is, like in Brazil nuts, right?
Yeah, and Brazil nuts are fantastic for selenium as well.
Right.
So, and actually NAC is one supplement that I will sometimes take. Yeah, but I do try to have just quite a varied diet, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, all the things that we all know already.
So let's talk about food, because you are really big proponent on when you work with your clients to recommend them certain different protocols. And there's different ones: ketogenic diet, autoimmune disease protocol. There's Wally's Keto Flex. There's Bernerus, if I'm Bernerus, yes, protocol. There's so much. I mean, how do you...
I need to update my website, obviously.
Okay. So how do you know which client needs certain protocols, and what are all those different
protocols? Yeah.
Protocols and diet? Because we know food is a medicine. It's a period.
Yeah. Let's take a step back first. I actually am now more leaning towards light electromagnetism and vibroacoustics as being the foundations for health and medicine. Food is actually a vehicle which transmits this light and electromagnetism into the body, which is why I'm very funny about people taking supplements, because first of all, there's very high deuterium in supplements. That's one. Two, it's that if you assume that whatever you're eating is giving your cells information about the environment around you, if you take a lot of antioxidants, if your environment isn't actually full of pollutants and all the rest, which is when you should be taking the antioxidants, right? If your environment isn't full of pollutants, so you're living a quite clean life in Crete, in Greece, right?
How many people live there?
True,
Majority of people will live in the big cities and
100%.
breathing,
And that's
gases
why
and
antioxidants
eating.
can be helpful for them,
Right.
right? But what I'm trying to say is that food that we take, the molecules that we're imbibing in whatever environment that we're in, is actually giving your body information about that environment. I'm going to give you a very tangible example of this. When you stress grapes, they produce more antioxidants, also known as polyphenols or resveratrol.
Like a red wine.
Yeah, exactly, right? There's a very high red wine, there's a high resveratrol red wine in Australia, and they have a patented way of stressing the grapes. I can't remember
maybe we
now.
should start drinking Australian wine.
Well, when I was there, that was the red wine that I
Right.
bought. It's a very small batch, Barossa Valley. It's actually headed up by a doctor. It's called the red wine, the resveratrol doctor or something like that. And they stress the grapes, and then the grapes produce more resveratrol. The idea here from an evolutionary sort of food matrix perspective is that the plants are being subjected to the same sort of stressors that the humans are being subjected to in that same environment, which is why you should be eating food within, picked,
Locals.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
like 50 kilometers or 10 kilometers or whatever it may be. If you stress the grapes with fungi, for example, and it produces more resveratrol, then the human in that area is also being exposed to this fungi or mold, and then it eats the grapes, and it's going to benefit from the antioxidant capacity to deal with these stressors that they are also facing. So if you are not being exposed to the stressors that these polyphenols and these antioxidants are meant to be helping you with, you're actually telling your cells there's a problem, because it's going, we're eating all this food, or these molecules are coming through, lots of antioxidants. Oh my God, is there something wrong with the environment that we're in? And so this mismatch of what might be happening in the environment and what's happening in your cells is what I call decoherence in the system. Because coherence in the system is what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you eat, what you touch, what you blah, 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 is consistent, congruent with what's happening on the inside. A very simple example of this would be that if you're at the beach, you're feeling the sunlight, right? Your opsins are getting the light, and sunscreen were to change that information. That your eyes, the melanopsin in the eyeballs, are seeing this light as well. Sunglasses changes that information. That your feet feel the sand that you can see, and wearing shoes changes that information. So when you are doing it in the most congruent way, your brain goes, okay, everything is okay with this animal. But when you start using sunscreens and sunglasses and shoes, there's a mismatch to the what you see, smell, hear, and what you're feeling. And then all of a sudden you've got a little bit of decoherence in the system.
And that's how you disconnect it with food, and then you can make right choices. That's what you're trying to say here, right?
Yeah. So I feel like we have to be more careful with the food choices that we're making. People like you and I, it doesn't make a difference really, because we're healthy. But my patient population are very, very sick.
So would you recommend? How would you recommend them certain diets based on their disease or toxicity of
So
those?
I used to definitely recommend, like, all the diets that you were rattling off, which is on my website, right? So the Walls protocol is specifically sort of MS. I mean, look, it started off as an MS protocol, so multiple sclerosis protocol, but it can be used for a lot of different disease processes, especially neurodegeneration and stuff. The Bredesen protocol, the Keto Flex, that is used for patients with neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's. Keto, if you read Brain Energy by Chris Palmer, it can be very helpful for certain neurodegeneration and also for mental health illnesses. But there is, I feel now, after these many years of practice, there is no one diet to rule them all.
Right.
And it should change season to season.
Change.
It should change for women. It should change week to week, depending on where we are in our cycle.
Absolutely
Luteal versus follicular phase, right? Yeah. What we eat when we're in our 40s is very different from what we should be eating when we're in our 20s and in our 60s. And the ability of a practitioner and the patient to listen to their body and pivot where necessary, that is what we should be teaching patients, not giving them a blanket protocol and giving them hell if they don't follow it. That's what I have a real problem with.
That's beautiful. Yeah, basically going back to being intuitive.
Yes.
Intuition is number one. And going back to, like you said, we are picking up mitochondria from other mothers, and the female energy is all based source energy, we actually are supporting with our intuition the whole world. Like back in the days, woman's job was actually being in the feminine energy and being connected to your intuition and give the wisdom to the tribe and the man. And man takes that wisdom and intuition from a woman and he goes and conquers the world. And I think we totally lost this whole notion of that, females becomes this very kind of like a rigid, female lost intuition. Men can get intuition because they don't have intuition. They get the intuition from us. No, it's the truth. It's it's funny, but it's truth. I mean, if a world will realize this and go back to nature and the way they were supposed to flow coherently in every way, then we're going to be no disease again and living a beautiful, loving world, right?
Yeah, the intuition of the masculine is very different from the intuition of the feminine energy. And of course, we hold both masculine and feminine, but that's actually another journey that I'm on, trying to rediscover my feminine energy.